Oh, that fight is gonna happen for sure. If he's not gonna retire, that fight gonna happen for sure. My goal to beat him as well. So, and about the slap and everything, he just made himself like a bullshit guy. He shouldn't do that because he did bad for him, not for me.
Mm,
Because everybody is laughing at him.
mm.
Everybody's laughing what he's just posted. Like he slapped me, bro. Like, uh, yeah, I have no words to say to him.
Well, it looks,
And
I know.
you know what the people started to do? They sent me on my direct on my Instagram, and he's slapping his brother, his coaches, his like training partners. He's like hugging everybody to the neck, and like everybody is posting, "Oh, you slapped your brother."
Yeah, you think this was all by the UFC's plan, and
Yes, for sure.
it's all in a way to just build Patty. That's what you think this is about, is building
Yes,
Patty.
it's a business to build Petty and make him easy fights.
Arman Tsarukyan is no longer covering up his irritation, with the UFC booking Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje for the interim title. Arman feels like he's been shoved out of the lane he earned fair and square. Instead of being the one lining up for Ilia Topuria next, he's watching two others enter into the title picture, and he's firing right back. He's calling out Ilia again, pressing Dana for answers, and making it clear he's not letting the division move on without his name front and center. Let's break down what he had to say.
So it's a very awkward situation because of the timing. Why would the UFC wait until just after Arman versus Dan Hooker to announce this? Why wouldn't they announce it a little earlier? Are they just trying to fucking piss us off? Are they trying to get like a big reaction? Like, why the fuck would they announce that? And maybe build Arman in the meantime? I don't know what the strategy is here. They can't just be retarded, okay? I don't think it's as easy as that to think they're just dumb. They just don't have a clue. Or they're just giving money fights and all this. Because I think Arman has a big fan base as well.
Arman Tsarukyan made it clear he sees a showdown with Ilia as unavoidable. Unless Ilia walks away from the sport, that fight will happen no matter what. He said beating Ilia is one of his personal missions, and he hasn't forgotten the backstage slap either. In Arman's eyes, that moment didn't make Ilia look intimidating. It made him look foolish. He said the whole thing backfired because fans ended up laughing at Ilia, not him, and Arman's had nothing more to say other than that he'll settle it when they finally meet.
That's
What
a
do you
bullshit.
what do you feel like is the dynamic between you two? And like in your heart, do you feel like you will face him someday? Like you feel like that fight is inevitable, or are you really not sure between you and Ilya?
Oh, that fight is gonna happen for sure. If he's not gonna retire, that fight gonna happen for sure. My goal to beat him as well. So, and about the slap and everything, he just made himself like a bullshit guy. He shouldn't do that because he did bad for him, not for me.
Mm,
Because everybody is laughing at him.
mm.
Everybody's laughing what he's just posted. Like he slapped me, bro. Like, uh, yeah, I have no words to say to him.
Ilia fired back with a playful but pointed shot, urging Paddy to get the job done in the interim fight before switching to Arman with a bit of trolling. He attached a video of a kid dancing and teased that the little routine was meant for Arman, turning a simple tweet into a slick mix of confidence, humor, and provocation. Moving on to his take on the interim title fight, Arman basically said he isn't sure who he's more annoyed with, Ilia or the UFC. On one hand, Ilia is the champion and could speak up if he really wanted that fight, but he hasn't yet. On the other hand, Arman suspects Ilia might not be in shape for January, or maybe the UFC is steering things a certain way. He floated the idea that the promotion might have told Ilia to hold off, promised him a bigger payday in June, and let the interim matchup play out so they can cash in on a huge fight down the line.
You feel yourself irritated more at Ilya or at the UFC? Like you feel like the UFC has its own plans, but Ilya is the champion. I mean, he could speak up and say he wants to fight you. He hasn't done that. Which one do you feel sort of more irritated towards?
I don't know. Maybe, well, maybe he's not ready for the January. That's why he's not in good shape. That's why, or the UFC just say, please leave the title and we're gonna pay you more in June. Just let Petty win the fight, and we're gonna make it big fight.
Arman doubled down hard, saying the whole situation feels scripted by the UFC to pump Paddy's star power. In his view, they're handing him favorable matchups, dressing it up with an interim belt, and setting the stage for a bigger cash grab in the future, all because they know throwing him at Ilia right now would backfire. Arman even said he's rooting for Gaethje to smash the hype train so the division can finally move on, while fighters like him are left watching the business side bend the rankings out of shape.
Fight for you.
So you kind of said this right off the bat, but just to clarify, you think this was all by the UFC's plan, and
Yes, for sure.
it's all in a way to just build Paddy. That's what you think this is about, is building
Yes,
Paddy.
it's a business to build Petty and make him easy fights. But I hope Justin gonna beat his ass, kick his ass, and we're gonna forget about Petty all our life.
If they wanted to build him, why wouldn't they just put him straight into the title fight with Ilia? Because
They already did.
they tried, and then
They gave him easier because they know he's gonna lose to Ilia. Better like to do interim title and make something like a bigger than, because if he has no title, he's fighting for the title. It's he's not that big, but when he gonna be, I hope he's not gonna be a champion, but like UFC think he's gonna be a champion and he's gonna fight for the real belt with Ilia. That time he's gonna be superstar and they can sell more pay-per-views or whatever they do. And
you have.
real fighters like me just watching and waiting our time, you know.
He said none of this really blindsided him. He'd already heard whispers that the UFC wanted Paddy lined up for Ilia in January. What did catch him off guard was the switch to an interim title with Gaethje instead. Still, he believes the blueprint was set long before his last fight even happened. In his view, Ilia's withdrawal wasn't some personal issue. It was the UFC reshuffling pieces to manufacture Paddy into a star and eventually cash in on a bigger matchup with Ilia. Arman even compared it to a budget version of Khabib versus Conor, just with far less legitimacy behind it.
Did you know? Were you given sort of a heads up, or how did you find out about this on Thursday?
I already knew that Petty gonna fight with Ilia Topuria in January. So, but I didn't know they're gonna do interim title versus Gaethje and Petty. But I knew that UFC wants to do Ilia versus Petty, and on my mind, I didn't think like it's something happened, even if I knock him out, because they already set up that all things. But at the end of the day, Ilia didn't fight, and I think this is UFC game plan. It's not like family issue or something. It's they want to make star Paddy Pimblett and to bring him to fight for the title with Topuria as a bigger name and make it like a big fight, like a kind of Khabib versus Conor, but they're not, even if he got the belt.
And jumping into the controversy, MMA Guru basically laid out that Arman should be the clear-cut top contender. He's beaten elite names, while Paddy and Gaethje don't have the recent wins to justify an interim shot. He said Gaethje lucked into this position thanks to the threatening to quit angle, and the UFC likely avoided booking him against Arman to keep that from blowing up publicly. In Guru's eyes, the promotion is banking on Paddy getting past Gaethje so they can roll out a massive Ilia versus Paddy event, potentially even at the White House, and that's why the whole matchup feels engineered rather than earned.
I don't think Ilia's easy work, but listen, Arman's definitely champion B of the division right now, number one contender, has a win over Oliveira. Gaethje doesn't, Pimblett doesn't. Pimblett doesn't have that top 5 win to put him in this interim title fight situation. Gaethje doesn't have a big win recently at all in his career either. But they just sort of like... Gaethje's actually pretty lucky in hindsight, or it would have just been Arman versus Gaethje as a number one contender matchup. So Gaethje, like, the stars aligned for Gaethje's plan of I'm going to retire unless they give me a title fight actually worked. And they probably didn't want to do that because now it makes it look like Gaethje sort of got them to do what he wanted by threatening retirement. But that's the option that they had. And I think they think that Pimblett's going to beat Gaethje. And then they're going to do Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett at the White House, which is...
On the other hand, Din Thomas highlighted that Arman Tsarukyan is understandably the one feeling overlooked despite earning his spot in the mix. He explained that the UFC, under Paramount's influence, is increasingly chasing fighters who not only win but also put on a show, and that can leave technical grappling heavy fighters like Arman sidelined in favor of more fan-friendly stars like Gaethje. Din stressed it's not about merit. Arman has earned his time, but the promotion is prioritizing excitement and spectacle, meaning he might have to wait a bit longer while the business builds its big, flashy matchups.
Right. Well, I know someone who's not happy, and I'm sure that's Arman Tsarukyan, right? I'm sure he believes he deserves to be in this fight, and he was saying even after the win, like, didn't take any damage. If they want me to fight in January, that's when he's being asked about Ilia, but I'm sure if they called him to fight either of these guys for an interim belt, he would have done it.
You know, and it's unfortunate too, because we put this burden on these fighters, but it says a lot though. It says a lot about the direction that Paramount wants to go with the UFC. Really, it says that, listen, we want guys that are going to bang, and it's an unfair burden that we put on fighters to say, we want you to win, be successful and win it. And you also have to entertain us by putting your neck on the line and taking a lot of chances and taking damage in the process. Because when you got guys like Justin Gaethje, that's what they do, but they're fan favorites. A guy like Arman Tsarukyan might not be a fan favorite because he's so grappling oriented. So it's kind of telling of where the direction of where they want the UFC to go, because they're trying to get eyeballs, man. Without eyeballs, the sport goes nowhere. So for Arman Tsarukyan, he might have to sit out for a little bit, but you know, he definitely deserves it, and his time is coming. It's just, I think right now Paramount and the UFC is kind of establishing that, you know, we're going to want some entertainers in there, and if you're not entertaining us, if entertainment is not a part of your priority, then that might be an issue.
However, TJ Dillashaw weighed in with a different angle. He doesn't buy Ilya's talk of moving up in weight. According to TJ, the real reason Ilia might hesitate is Arman. He pointed out that Arman is a complete threat, strong, skilled, and fully comfortable at the weight, and anyone in Ilya's position would think twice about stepping into that matchup. From TJ's view, if there's a fight that truly matters for Ilia right now, it's against Arman, and avoiding him wouldn't be surprising.
Ilia has expressed interest about moving up and maybe trying to face Makhachev. How realistic is this scenario, do you think? You know, does it leave Tsarukyan in limbo at lightweight?
Stupid. He's not moving up. Like, come on. There's too many horses in the stable at 170.
I'm moving up.
Yeah.
Is he trying to run from Arman? Is Ilia running from Arman?
I do think so.
Oh,
okay. That's
I do think so.
legit.
Hello.
But with that said, I think that Ilia Topuria.
Who wouldn't want to run from Arman? Have you seen him before?
I'm running from him currently. I don't even know the guy I'm running from.
I do think Ilia Topuria is the highest skilled fighter in the UFC right now, but I do think he is threatened by Arman. Arman's big, he's strong, he's great at the weight class, his boxing is clean, great grappling. It's a tough fight for him to where he can go to 70s. Maybe he doesn't get the win. It doesn't make sense to me. The only fight for Ilia Topuria right now is Arman.
And according to Luke Thomas, Arman Tsarukyan is by far Ilia's biggest challenge. He acknowledged that Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje aren't pushovers, but stressed they don't carry the same level of threat as Arman. Luke also noted that while other contenders like Max Holloway might work their way toward a title shot, no one else currently has the resume or recent victories to match Arman's credentials. Simply put, for Luke, Arman is the one fighter who truly demands respect at the top of this division.
By far, Ilia Topuria's toughest test. Sorry. It's not Justin Gaethje. I'm not saying Justin Gaethje is a pushover, but he doesn't represent the kind of threat that Tsarukyan does. I'm not saying that you can just completely ignore the threat of Paddy Pimblett. That's not what I'm saying. But let's be serious. He's not the threat that Arman Tsarukyan is. And Max Holloway may earn himself to a spot where he can get a title shot. I don't know what's going to happen with him and Charles Oliveira. I don't know how that's going to go. All I can say right now is that's the guy. That's the guy right there. Not to, and maybe he wins, maybe he doesn't, but I cannot think of someone who I believe has got the best wins of any contender, at least in the current campaign that they're putting together.
Moreover, Teddy Atlas broke down Arman Tsarukyan as a complete package, the kind perfect for Ilia. He praised his all-around skills, highlighting both his dominance on the mat and his impressive striking. Teddy noted Arman's physical strength, technical ability, and confident presence, calling him a fighter who carries himself like a boss. In his view, Arman shows few if any weaknesses, making him a threat whether the fight stays standing or hits the ground. And then Ariel Helwani described the interim title bout as a bit of a makeshift setup, skipping over the true #1 contender, Arman Tsarukyan, and leaving the current champion out entirely. To him, it carries the excitement of a BMF-style fight, entertaining for fans but lacking in real legitimacy. While Paddy versus Gaethje might be fun on paper and could eventually lead to a showdown with Ilia or Arman, Helwani argues it isn't strictly necessary, and the fact that it headlines over a matchup like Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes only underscores how confusing the matchmaking has become. Whereas, YouTube MMA commentator The Weasel questioned the whole logic behind the Arman versus Hooker fight being promoted as a #1 contender fight, pointing out that Arman had already proven himself as the top-ranked contender. He argued that even after a strong performance and a finish, the win was essentially handed over to Gaethje. In his view, the interim title exists for two main reasons. First, to headline the card, since a matchup like Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes wouldn't draw the same attention, and second, to persuade Gaethje to accept the fight, given he's previously insisted on only fighting with a belt on the line. So what's your take? Does Arman Tsarukyan getting skipped over feel unfair, or is there a reason the UFC went this route? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more fight breakdowns.